So here we are on hiatus time, and thanks to Dr. Wolf, we've gotten a leaked video on some of the My Little Pony episodes that were revealed over the internet and what their names were. Last time I did a video like this, it was an April Fool's prank, and there were really no spoilers other than the titles themselves. Whether I was accurate in that video or not is sort of hit or miss, but it was an April Fool's prank and I was just making junk up off the top of my head. This time I'm going to try to honestly figure out what could be happening in these leaked episodes. So, spoilers for the rest of the season, consider yourself warned. The first one on the list is called Stranger Than Fiction, and how I wish this had been the hiatus episode instead of the episode we have to wait until fall to see. But I guess that's the attitude with a lot of these. Stranger Than Fan Fiction. Now, what could this bring to mind? Now, the first thing that pops up to mind is the same thing that Dr. Wolf pointed out, that this could be sometimes self-insert fan fiction being written by Rainbow Dash about Daring Do. Maybe the real Daring Do shows up and reads her fan fiction and has some kind of opinion on it. Or maybe after writing the fan fiction, the real Daring Do shows up and they go on an adventure together. That's just one possibility, however. It could also be about other characters writing fan fictions. Maybe Spite is writing a fan fiction about the Power Ponies, or maybe a new fictional character is introduced that the fan fiction is being written about. Maybe the characters get pulled inside the fan fiction and have to deal with the other person's insane writing. Or maybe the CMC write a fan fiction about the main six, and we compare what the CMC wrote to what really happened. Perhaps, maybe, this plays out like the movie Stranger Than Fiction, one of the only good movies ever done by Will Ferrell, wherein an author who has never met him is writing a fictional story, and unknown to her, Will Ferrell's character is having everything in the fictional story happen to him for real, and he has to find her and convince her not to kill his character off because he could die in real life if she ever successfully completes her story. Maybe the ponies, one of the ponies, perhaps the CMC or maybe one of the other ones, gets their hopes on a magical book and starts writing a fan fiction, but unknown to them, the magical book makes whatever's written in it actually happen, and the other characters start having weird stuff go on that they normally wouldn't do. Maybe this whole thing is a reference to Brony fan fiction. Maybe the staff has looked at some of the more popular fan fictions that Bronies have written, and they're going to present us with a series of short stories based on those fan fictions. Or maybe the staff is doing something like the episode Slice of Life, and they're going to take a bunch of background ponies and tell a series of short stories that present their own ideas on what these characters are, and they've challenged themselves to be even more interesting than what the fans have come up with, but to tell stories that are actually in canon. The next episode after that is called The Cart Before the Ponies. It's a play on the saying the cart before the horse, which means that in putting the cart before the horse, you're doing something incredibly impractical. Because if the cart is in front of the horse can't pull the cart. I have absolutely no clue what this could be, but it makes me think about a Apple Family episode because they're the ones that always pull charts and so forth. But maybe some ponies are doing something highly impractical, or something of lesser value is being valued over the other ponies. I honestly can't tell. This is perhaps the vaguest, least descriptive title ever, and it feels like they just wanted to put a popular saying and ponify it, and it's really not giving any hint whatsoever as to what could possibly be happening. Maybe it has something to do with a wagon trip someplace, or perhaps it has to do with hauling goods and selling them at market. But whatever, the next episode is called 28 Pranks Later, another play on a famous movie title. It makes me wonder if we'll get to see all 28 of these pranks or if they'll be done off-screen. It also makes me think of a Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie episode, although it could possibly also star Discord maybe. Most likely Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie playing pranks on their friends until their friends get fed up with it, and then we see some kind of aftermath. Or maybe Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash's friends get back at those two and prank them in some kind of grandiose way, and Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash learn their lesson in not pranking. Anyhow, it's been a very long time since the idea of ponies and pranks went together. The whole idea was touched upon in Griffin the Brush Off, and since then we have not seen Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash perform their love of pranks. It'd be interesting to touch back on that and see how things turn out. We have The Times Are a Changeling. This is an obvious one. Obviously it'll have changelings in it, but it makes me wonder, will it be a changeling invasion or a setup for a season finale including a changeling invasion? Or could this be something that has to do with how the times are a-changing and how one or more changelings wants to be accepted in pony society and treated as an equal, treated as a friend, and they have to find a way to prove that they're not evil and they can be trusted. But the ponies are slow to trust changelings and don't know if they can believe this one changeling. Hopefully we'll find out something that could very well retcon many episodes, and we'll find out that the changeling has been hiding amongst the ponies and posing as certain ponies for great many episodes, and we'll see how in past episodes what we thought were certain ponies were actually changelings. That could explain animation errors and out-of-character moments if they could be attributed to a changeling and not an artist or writer's mistakes. Then we have Butt Ball season. I can't help but think of this as being similar to baseball. Perhaps a episode featuring Big Mac and Spite as they get hyped over their favorite sports team. Or maybe a group of established pony characters are going to be playing in a game together. Or maybe they're going to be watching a game someplace. We know that hoofball is something that we heard about in a previous episode, so we know that buckball isn't hoofball. And buckball sounds more like baseball and hoofball sounds more like football. We also know that soccer is canon to My Little Pony as well, because Rainbow Dash held a soccer ball when she wanted recess during the Testing 1, 2, 3 episode. but it'd be definitely interesting to see how buckball is played. If it'll be exactly like baseball, or if it'll have its own unique rules. If it'll be played on a large green field with diamonds and bases, or if it'll be played in some kind of magical setting like up in the clouds or in some kind of mystical arena, and it'll end up being more like a Harry Potter sport than a human world sport. It could even be one of the first times that we get a predominantly male cast if it ends up being that Big Mac and Spike are interested in sports and the rest of the ponies aren't. Might even be the story of male characters trying to enjoy the sports when one of the female characters comes out as being a fan of the sport too and wants to be included on the traditionally all-male event, and the males are hesitant to let the female into the group to enjoy the event with them. Or maybe some pony who's never seen the game before tries to get into it and ruins the fun of the game by constantly asking questions. Either way, it should be something interesting to learn about that'll help expand the world. I think I would have the most fun seeing teams of different ponies play each other and having Team A and Team B both be composed of established characters that we're already familiar with, as opposed to introducing two teams of all brand new characters and trying to get us to be attached to these new characters from that episode. It could be interesting to see the team dynamic and go sort of a bad news bears route of vote for the underdog. And then we have another interesting one, Dungeons and Discord. This reminds me of two things. One is a fan work about the My Little Pony characters engaged in a Dungeons and Dragons style quest. This appeared in two of the Ponies, the Anthologies series, and has a couple more on the channel of the guy who made that animation. It's definitely one of my more favorite segments from Ponies, the Anthology, and I liked the idea of the main stage playing Dungeons and Dragons. And it'll be interesting to see this episode be the in-canon version of that fan animation. The other thing that this reminds me of is an episode of Star Trek. Spoilers if you're not familiar with The Next Generation, but there was an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where John Delancey's character Q brought the crew of the Enterprise into a story of Robin Hood, and all of the Enterprise people were cast as Robin Hood and his band of merry men as they had to battle the Sheriff of Nottingham. Q wanted to see how the scenario would play out, and if Picard would choose to relax in the safety of Sherwood Forest, or if he would risk the lives of his crew to save another person. Something very similar could happen with Discord. He could take a Dungeons and Dragons game and actually bring it to life and put each of the ponies into a role to play out and make them face adventure and danger as the game takes a life of its own. This would also go the same way as an episode of the later season of Gravity Falls. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Thank you for watching and good night.